Welcome to our 7th edition of Crop Concerns for Video. I'm here with the University of Missouri Extension agronomist Wayne Crook. He writes a local column for us in the Marshall Democrat News called Crop Concerns, and we're going to go over some of the things he writes about, and we always try to add new things. And if any of our viewers have some ideas for new topics, we'd love to hear them. So you can always email me, Marcia Gorel, the ag reporter at the Democrat News, and my email is mgorel@marshallnews.com. So Wayne, you've just been at a crop management conference in Columbia, I understand, and you brought back some information about bugs, I hear. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the bugs that we need to be worried about for next year?
Wayne Bailey made a presentation about the bugs that we've had problems with, the insects he expects to have problems next year and even down the line.
Okay.
And a lot of them were fairly common and even occurred in this area this year too.
I know one of them was a bean leaf beetle.
Right, that's the first one he talked about. We had a lot of problems with it when the beans first emerge. So some of the beans that are planted first get attacked the worst, and they usually have 2 generations, and the second generation will come into pod fill and cause damage on the pods and defoliation. They usually, they're on like a 2 to 5 year cycle. And right now we're in a 5-year cycle, and the populations are still building up.
Okay.
We did have significant problems this year, so there's a good potential that we'll have problems with again next year too. So we need to make sure and watch out for them.
Okay, so what do they look like? What's a farmer need to look for?
It's basically it's a green insect. It can have it has stripes on the side, it can have spots on the back, or it can be just plain on the back with no stripes. The key identifying characteristic is right behind its head. It will have a triangle that is inverted. The point of it will be back towards the back of the insect.
Okay.
And that's the only insect that has that one characteristic.
And I know you'll be monitoring it, so we can look for your column or our Crop Concerns for Video next year if you start seeing the problem in the area.
Yeah, we have a lot of farmers out here that watch it too, and they keep me informed, and they come and ask questions, and I try to keep them informed so that they can look for it before the time occurs they need to look for it.
Okay. Okay. So what about webworms? That was another one you talked about.
That was that was one this year that hadn't caused us much problem before, but this year it did. And I don't know of much in this local area, but around this general part of the state, there were some producers that had problems with webworms moving into it, and they caused defoliation, just like the bean leaf beetles and several other ones do. And there was some concern. There was actually some spraying. Again, because of the conditions and the populations build up, there is concern they may be back again next year too.
Okay. And so that's another thing. What do they need to look for on that, on the webworms, and what time of year?
It'll be after the plant gets to growing, it's still in the vegetative stage, and you'll actually see webbing on the leaves and in the plant, something like a spider type of web.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They use that webbing to hold their young on the leaves so they can feed.
Okay.
So if you see any webbing on that, that's the first suspect. We also get some webbing with spider mites, but that's a whole different set of weather conditions.
Isn't that dry weather?
Yeah, you get dry, hot weather. Spider mites usually occur on the edge of the field because they move in from the grass, and they're always on the back of the leaf. And if the weather conditions are completely different, what you'll see the webworm.
Okay. What about green cloverworm? That was another one you said he talked about.
Cloverworm has 2 effects, actually. That's a strange thing about it. Cloverworm in itself eats on the leaves and causes defoliation. You can see it on the plant, and it kind of inches along on the plant when you see something like an inchworm. But generally we have a fungus that controls the cloverworm and kills it. The thing about this is the fungus that attacks the cloverworm also attacks the soybean podworm.
Okay.
So if the cloverworm populations go down or they are controlled early, then this fungus isn't present at such a high level in the environment. So when the soybean podworms come along, there's not enough inoculum to help control them, because this fungus will control the soybean podworm too.
Okay, so that's kind of a double strike.
Right.
So when do we need to start looking for that?
Again, it's in the late vegetative state, and it feeds on the leaves, causes defoliation again.
Okay. Okay. Another thing we talked about was stink bugs, and I remember you talked a lot about those this year.
Yeah, we got a lot of stink bugs out there. We got a lot of problems with them too. Green stink bugs and brown stink bugs are the ones that we're probably most familiar with.
Okay.
When you used to be able, when you cut wheat or beans, you look in the grain tank, you see the little stink bugs crawling around, kind of a triangular body.
Okay.
And the green stink bug is still the predominant one, but we've got this new one called the brown marmorated stink bug that's trying to come in. It has some problems that makes it a lot worse insect than the green or the brown stink bug. First of all, the green stink bug and brown stink bug lay their eggs on the stem in leaves, and so when they hatch out, they feed on the leaves.
Okay.
The brown marmorated stink bug lays its eggs on the pods, and they come out and eat on the pods first.
Oh.
Instead of the leaves, so you're going to have more direct damage to your grain that way.
Right.
Stink bugs also have the characteristic of they start eating on the pods, and then after a while they'll start cutting the pods off and they'll fall on the ground. They'll move to the ground and feed.
Okay.
So you may not see the stink bugs on the plant. They may be on the ground. Second, these brown marmorated stink bugs are more resistant to the insecticides.
Oh, they are.
It's going to take more specific insecticides. It's going to take more timely applications and probably more applications to control them. And then for a third bonus, I know everybody will enjoy, they live 2 years instead of 1 year like ordinary stink bugs.
Oh, really?
Right. And they have the overwintering habits of box elder bugs and Asian lady beetles.
Do they come in people's houses?
Yes.
Okay.
They do.
They do, huh?
They'll come into the house, and I don't know if you've ever smashed a ladybug and smelled the smell it produces.
Yes.
That's mild compared to a brown marmorated stink bug.
Oh,
they
really?
stink worse.
Okay.
And on Asian ladybugs, you have to actually kill it to create the smell. On these brown marmorated stink bugs, you just got to make them mad.
Oh, really?
And they'll leave a smell in your house.
Oh, really?
And I've even heard incidents where they've driven the people out of the house for up to 6 hours because of the smell.
Oh, no. No, that sounds promising.
And between that and being hard to kill, haven't found any in Missouri as in the wild. They found them in Kansas City. They found them in an RV in central Missouri.
So they're heading this way, maybe.
They've been through here. And I think when we, just because they've been through here, there's good possibility here. They expect that we will find them in the near future.
Really?
They expect the first place they find them will be in somebody's house.
Oh, really? Instead of the field, and then they'll spread to the field from there.
Yep, when the populations build up.
I see. Okay. Well, that sounds really great. Is there anything a farmer can do to prepare in advance, or is it just good scouting once you get your crops planted?
It depends on what kind of insect you got. Some of the seed treatments can control the overwintering populations of the soybean leaf beetle. Some of the chemicals you can get on stink bugs, the chemical's going to be gone by the time they come.
Okay.
And we had some reports last year also of black cutworm damage on soybeans.
Yes.
Usually you worry about that in corn, but they had it in beans last year. It did help some, the seed treatments, insecticidal seed treatments on soybeans on that. But the problem is those worms are so big, they have to get a lot of the chemical in order to be effective. So.
Is that right?
So the control wasn't complete control, but it just kind of reduced the populations.
It helped. Okay.
It helped. But if you know what insect you got and when they're going to be out there, you can know whether you need to buy insecticide on your seed or not, because that costs money. It's another production cost. If you can reduce it, that's good.
Okay. Are there any other bugs that he talked about? Threats, or is that the main ones, I guess?
That's pretty well it, I think. Another one is the red-banded stink bug we didn't get into.
Okay. Tell me about it.
It's in Mississippi. It's been found in Tennessee and southeast Missouri and Kentucky and identified down there. It hasn't moved in this area. Another problem with it, though, it's very hard to control. The chemicals are weak on it. So we need to watch for it. If it shows up, we need to control it early. That's the main thing.
Okay. All right. And another one of the things, the classes that you went to, they talked about the crop management after flooding. We've kind of had some concern around here and some flooding. Can you tell us a little bit about what they told you at the crop management conference?
One thing they talked about was the ground has been underwater so long that it tends to tie up the phosphorus in the soil.
Okay.
This seems to be more of a problem with corn than it does beans.
Okay.
This gentleman was from southeast Missouri where they grow rice, and they follow rice with corn, and they don't have a problem with phosphorus. I mean, with soybeans, but when they follow with corn, they do have deficiency symptoms.
Okay.
And it's just a matter, the phosphorus changes into a different form when it's underwater a long time.
I see.
But even if you have a good soil test and it's been underwater, you probably still need to put some additional phosphorus on just to get the crop growing good right off the bat. And then eventually over time, as the soil dries out, that other phosphorus should become available there.
Okay, it sounds like that's especially important if you're going to corn and wet ground, yeah.
In beans, he wasn't too concerned about it, but if you're going to corn, you need to put phosphorus on if it's been underwater for 60 to 90 days, he said.
Okay, well, thank you, Wayne. I also understand at this crop management conference you heard from an economist, and he told you a few things that were a little discouraging.
Yeah, he had a lot of good things. He tried to start the group out to create the mood, right? And the first question he asked in the presentation was, how many economists does it take to grease a combine?
I don't know.
His answer was 1, but you got to run him through really slow.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you, Wayne. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.